welcome to the third ever episode of the Gark Show. Today we're going to be doing an NBA draft preview, sponsored by Wheat Thins. Wheat Thins, sweeten your life.
I'm Mark Rosenberg, that's Gabe, Halperin-Goldstein, and we're joined on the set today by special guests Mo Eltahir and Dan Alessandro.
Thanks for having us.
So,
Absolutely. So to kick things off, we're going to be looking at the top 5 picks of this year's draft. So starting off with the Cavs at number 1, who do you guys think they should be looking at?
It's got to be Embiid. I mean, his potential on both ends of the floor is unlimited, especially given
unlimited.
maybe not unlimited, but given a guy with that amount of athleticism who can play 2 ways, that's really a rare talent.
Yeah.
I'm going with Andrew Wiggins here. Wiggins is the most talented player in this draft. I think he has the most potential to become a franchise cornerstone because of his scoring ability, and his defense is already NBA ready. And I just see Wiggins as the player with the most potential.
I gotta stop you right there. I think Wiggins is definitely not the most talented player coming up. I think he has great athleticism, but if you're looking at talent, you have guys like Nick Stauskas who have amazing shooting ability, whereas Wiggins often has been described as being an inconsistent shooter and having sort of a loose handle on the ball. So I think he has potential, but I'm not sure his skills are quite where everybody else are.
Actually, I think his skill-wise, his game is alright. Where I disagree with you, Gabe, is the fact that he would be the franchise cornerstone. Ultimately, the way I see Wiggins projecting is being a great second option on a very strong championship contender team. I just never think he's going to be that alpha male, a la Kevin Durant or LeBron James or even Paul George. Really, I think he although he might reach the defensive level or even exceed that in case some of those guys, I think that he will never be the most dominant scorer.
So do you see Embiid as a potential franchise cornerstone?
Yeah, I feel like Embiid, although he's not maybe the offensive centerpiece that a team might have, which I think he does have the potential to build into an 18 or even maybe 20 in his prime point guy. But I think with Embiid, I think he could actually be a franchise cornerstone and that he could really anchor defense.
Yeah, Embiid only averaged 11 points as a freshman, which would be the lowest ever for a top pick. But he does have so much room to grow, especially given that he's only been playing organized basketball for 3 years. He started as a junior in high school, and he switched from volleyball, which is a sport that requires soft hands and excellent hand-eye coordination.
A lot of same basic skills as basketball.
Right, so yeah, he has such a complete foundation of skills, and given how short of a time he's been playing, I just think he has so much room to grow.
Worked out a couple weeks ago, I should say. Bill Simmons noted that he was automatic from 15, which is a huge plus. Mm-hmm. We have already seen from his time at Kansas that not only does he have that athleticism to get those putback layups and then some great dunks, but he's also mobile, just up and down the floor. He's great, and then also he has a pretty decent post game.
I don't think, to me, the Embiid pick isn't as automatic, and I actually think that whether or not the Cavs automatically go for Embiid depends on how serious they are about making a play at LeBron James. Just given that they're seen as the second likeliest target to lure him back, and I think if you pick Embiid, or if you're going for LeBron, you pick Embiid automatically because he can go alongside LeBron and Irving to form an outstanding starting 5. I think if you're not sure about it, or if you don't think you're going for LeBron, then you at least consider Wiggins. As Gabe mentioned, he has the most raw athleticism of any player in the draft.
I think Aaron Gordon's a bit more athletic.
That's arguable. Just finish more.
Right, but he's also shown the ability to take over games at times. He had a 41-point game as a freshman. He went off for 17 points and 19 rebounds in a huge game against Ohio State late in the season. So I think that you have to at least consider Wiggins. But if you're really going for LeBron, then Embiid, no question.
I think here's what I actually mark. First of all, I think the chance that LeBron leaves Miami this summer is less than 1%. But say he is leaving Miami. What I think LeBron would want to see from front office in Cleveland isn't that they pick someone out of his position. LeBron can slot it in just basically anywhere except for the 2. Yeah. And I feel like even if they got Wiggins, they could easily put LeBron on the 4 and everything would be smooth sailing. What I think LeBron wants to see out of the front office is rather that they're smart. And that I think the best way they demonstrate that is by taking the best player on the board. For me, that's Embiid. So one way or another, I really think their play is Embiid here.
I just don't think there's no chance that that LeBron leaves though. If they lose this offseason, they're going to be saddled with an aging Wade, a crumbling supporting cast, and I think a lot of people in the league would admire LeBron for returning to Cleveland, given how much they hated his move to Miami. And I think that if they add Embiid, then they'll have a talented young core, and LeBron would at least be
I can't say I
protected by
would
that.
love to see that, but I just
I
feel
think there are
like
many who would.
there are so many people who would just absolutely just love to see that. But I think the problem therein lies maybe with Dwayne Wade. It's kind of like friendship and camaraderie they used to do, but with LeBron James, I think their friendship is even bigger than we really see. And then I feel like the other thing is with the kind of like roster and like just situation that Miami is so skillfully set up, their bench is kind of like just like interchangeable parts. Every year, like a guy gets too old, like Mike Miller, like kind of fell off, so they traded him. They brought in Rashard Lewis, who's actually stepped up pretty recently. So I feel like Miami as a team, even if they don't win this finals, I feel like it's still a possibility.
One thing I gotta bring up about Embiid too is the back problems. That's one of the biggest questions with Embiid. We've seen in the past with a player like Jared Solinger, who was I think AP Player of the Year in college, dropped to the Celtics in a very late pick. Do you guys think Embiid's back is a big problem? And if so, why is his draft stock not plummeted?
I'll actually tell you why, because like I said, I referenced to Bill Simmons like a little talk about Embiid earlier. He saw him play a couple weeks ago. According to him, although obviously he's a medical expert, it looks like Embiid's back is fine. I feel like maybe people are a little bit like exacerbating the issue with a bad back. I feel like people are just afraid of a Greg Oden 2.0. But I really feel like he just when someone like Embiid is on the table where he is, I feel like just gotta take him. That's just me though.
I do kind of agree with Dan here, though, that just the fact that his back seems fine at the moment doesn't mean that it's not an
Say the
area
medical
of
staff
potential.
of the Cleveland Cavaliers go back and they're like, oh wait, there might be a red flag here. Oh, immediately don't take him. Start looking at your options. Maybe you're gonna trade.
Right, just
But I think his back checks out. There's no way you don't take him.
just something that GMs are probably keeping in the back of
So
their mind.
I hate the idea of speculating so far into the future. I mean, if it's like such an obvious concern, okay, but
And he missed games in the tournament. He missed several of the NCAA March Madness games at the end of the season, so I think it's obviously a big concern.
I think that was more about him not wanting to hurt his draft stock. I mean, he doesn't want to come back from an injury, play worse, and then he was already projected number one at that point. That could have cost him he has a couple bad games. That cost him maybe a couple $1 million.
Draft order, I was just going to say that draft order hugely determines salary in the NBA. There isn't much leeway for the rookies being drafted, and there's pretty established norms. The number one pick gets this much money, number 3 pick, 4, 5, 6, 7, so on. So that's a good point.
So I think we have the three of us taking Embiid first and Gabe taking Wiggins. So,
and obviously, and I would just like to say, just to back Gabe, if Embiid's back doesn't check out, Wiggins might be my pick too.
same here. All right. So now let's move on to the number 2 pick.
Bucks.
Milwaukee.
I'm gonna go with Jabari Parker for this pick. I just think that Embiid, even though I still have Embiid on my board because I didn't take him number 1, I think that Parker is a much better fit in Milwaukee because of his scoring ability, which Milwaukee really needs, someone who they can run the offense through for next year in the future. And then Milwaukee already has Larry Sanders signed for a pretty long term.
So in your situation, what makes sense to take Embiid?
No,
Yeah.
yeah.
They already have a rim protector.
So
Mo, real quick, can you pass the Wheatmans?
of course.
Thanks.
But I think Parker, they need an alpha male. That's been one of the biggest problems with Wiggins is that at times he's passive. He had 6 games in single digits during the year, not especially consistent, whereas Parker was an incredibly consistent player with a 30% usage rate at Duke. Showed he could score inside and out with his sweet turnaround jumper, back to the basket moves, driving the hoop, scoring outside. So I think they really just need a guy that can play through and have score consistently.
I think the thing with Parker is that the other way he stepped up is Duke didn't really have a solid 4 or 5 throughout the season, and Parker really stepped up for them in that regard. But just for me, who I think they should take, Wiggins, because I think pairing him up with Antetokounmpo would just be really fun, and then also Milwaukee already kind of has a couple ball hogs in Brandon Knight and Brendan Jennings. So I think it would kind of be interesting to see a guy who doesn't need the ball that much.
I mean,
But who I think they're going to pick, I'm going to agree with Gabe. I just have a feeling that they're going to kind of go for like bigger like star power, bigger personality, who I believe would be Jabari Parker. So I think they're going to go with Parker, but I think they should go with Wiggins.
One interesting thing to note about Parker is that he's Mormon. But per his Mormon faith, he's going to have to take perhaps a leave of absence for a couple of years, as Mormons are required to go on. I'm not sure specific to some sort of service trip there, but
I think
NBA
it's
players.
1 year, but when he would have taken it would have been his year at Duke.
I know.
So I think it's pretty clear
There's a
that that's
player
not
named
going to be a factor.
I don't know, there's a player named Sean Bradley who's a 7'6" center several years back, and he actually, between college and the NBA, he took his year or two, so that's something you have to worry about with Parker too.
I mean, I feel like if that was actually a concern at this point, it would have made bigger news.
I actually personally think the Bucks would be wise to take Parker, especially given that they're a franchise that's going to be in transition over the next few years. New ownership group, probably looking to change.
You think they're going to ship out a couple of those guys and make Parker their centerpiece? I think that's the play.
Possibly. Well, and just that they're possibly looking to change arenas as well. And I think that you want to go, in Milwaukee's case, you want to go with the most surefire star who you know can kind of be the cornerstone in the transition,
That's true.
in the transition period of this franchise. Because I think there's almost no chance that Parker is a bust. Whereas I could see scenarios with Embiid and Wiggins where things don't quite pan out. Parker, you know he's going to be a solid scorer and rebounder. And so I think that given that they're going to be in this big transition phase where they're trying to get fans excited about it, they'd be wise to pick the player who they know is going to be a star.
I mean, like, I see my personal worst case scenario for Parker is 14 points a game for many years. Like, that's absolute bottom.
I think he'll get 20 as a rookie.
Yeah, I think he'll get 20.
So,
but I think as a rookie,
Maybe on
that's
Milwaukee.
bold. But
I expect he'll be dominating the ball in Milwaukee.
Or
too.
Tyreek Evans did it, I think Jabari Parker can do it.
we'll see.
One other thing to note is that I think Parker fits in with the team very well in terms of Milwaukee's style. They're not as much of an up-tempo team as a lot of the Western teams are.
And he's very good in that.
Right, he's very good in the half court, whereas a player like Wiggins is much more efficient in the open court. He, I think, shot about 61% in transition, whereas he shot 41% in half court sets. So Parker fits in there better.
Right. All right, so third pick, Philadelphia. I just don't think there's any way they don't take the guy who's left out of Wiggins, Embiid, and Parker. There's no reason they'd reach down for Dante Exum.
Yeah.
You know, Michael Carter-Williams already turned
Basically the same guy. I mean, there's really no reason not to.
He already turned in a Rookie of the Year season for them at the point. So I don't see any reason they don't take the third guy who's left out of these top three.
Honestly, so many holes on that team. Like, it was like they weren't even playing an NBA roster last
Basically,
year.
a D-League team.
Yeah, like it was so bad. They can take literally anybody
They just need
from
talent.
the 10 best players, and it would be a major improvement at whatever position, except for point guard and center.
in my scenario, I have them taking Embiid, just because I already have Parker and Wiggins picked. I think Embiid actually wouldn't be as good of a fit as Wiggins or Parker, just because they already have Nerlens Noel. But I mean, I still think they'd end up
Best
taking.
talent.
If that was what was left,
Yeah, that's
they'd
real.
take him.
And Nerlens, you can shift to the 4, or you can kind of run like a twin tower system, kind of like Drummond and Monroe had.
That'd be not be an ideal situation for Philly, though. I mean, I think they went into this season really looking to get Wiggins. GM Sam Hinkie just tore the roster apart, looking to tank from the very beginning. And that stage of things, Wiggins was by far the most attractive prospect. His highlight mixtape had taken YouTube by storm. He was just clearly an athletic freak, and I think that they would be absolutely thrilled to end up with Wiggins at the number 3 slot. All right, so number 4 pick, Orlando Magic.
For me, this has got to be Exum. I mean, the big hole for them is at point guard, and I feel like it's just too good to be true. He's going to fall right into their laps with Wiggins and Embiid and Parker being taken in the top 3 in any order. And I feel like one big advantage is being able to stick Dante Exum on some of the taller shooting guards that Oladipo can guard. What about you, Gabe?
I'm also going with Dante Exum here. For me, it's a perfect fit. They have a need at point guard. They could create a really good backcourt for the future with Oladipo and Exum. And Exum is just his athleticism and build is just puts him in a position to be a really good player, I think.
I'm going to go against the grain here. I think they should take Julius Randle from Kentucky. I mean,
Really?
you mentioned his athleticism. It's actually not outstanding. He only has a 34.5 inch vertical, so nothing special there.
Really?
I'll go more in depth with this later on, but I just think there are way too many question marks surrounding Exum, and they have to go with the surefire 15 and 10 guy, and Julius Randle.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely Exum. Just Wiggins, Embiid, Parker, and Exum have been bracketed together, I think, as the guys who clearly are a bit of a cut above everyone else. And given that's where the Magic's hole is at point guard, I think there's no way they should go for Exum.
Really? 34 and a half?
Yep.
I haven't heard that stat.
Yeah.
That's actually...
That's surprising.
He
just
just my
moved
one
on.
thing to challenge your Randall pick. Do you think, I mean, Randall obviously, how he got most of his points, how he got most of his rebounds too, wasn't actually his vertical, but rather his strength. He really bullied a lot of the other smaller
I think
basketball
his,
kids.
yeah.
Do you think his strength will translate to that next level though? Because I could very much see he gets to that next level, and he's only 6'9", and he easily just gets kind of like pumped and like beat down a little bit.
Yeah, I do. I think he's a physically really strong guy, and he not only can finish inside, but he has, surprisingly, he's pretty good in the mid-range, and like 12, 10 feet in. He can shoot that. I just think he's his rebound is going to translate. He might have a tougher time bullying guys.
He's a
inside.
high motor player. I think.
Very athletic. So, do you guys mind if I talk about why I don't think Exum should get picked? Yeah, so there are 3 big question marks with Exum for me. Number 1 is, can he play the point guard in the NBA? A lot of NBA scouts have seen him as this 6'6" guy with a 6'10" wingspan, all these physical tools, but not especially point guard skills or leadership ability.
I mean, I've seen him kind of handle the ball. He seems like he has a pretty high handle.
Yeah, the second thing is that he simply hasn't faced good competition as these other guys. I mean, they've been playing Division I college basketball in major conferences. Randall's shows he can do it among the best in the SEC. And then finally, poor shooting. Oladipo, the one knock on Oladipo, he's a great versatile player, but he isn't the best shooter. Exum only shot 19% off the dribble this past year. I think you don't want a backcourt where both of them struggle to shoot.
I think my one thing with Exum is he actually got to play in, I think, the FIBA under 19. He got to play against a lot of players who would end up playing a lot of Division I basketball, and I'm pretty sure he fared fairly well in that game.
I think as for the ball handling, Oladipo can share those duties with him, and I just think it would be incredible to have this core of 2 young guards up and coming who have very different skill sets. Oladipo can be a defensive stopper, and like you said, Exum can be thrown on some of the longer shooting guards. So I just think that would be such an exciting core going forward.
Don't forget about the couple of other guys Orlando's got. They got Tobias Harris at the 3, who's been really developing as a star. I think he actually got like 15 points and like 6 or 7 rebounds. And then they have Nicholas Vucevic, who's actually pulled off multiple 20 games.
And is already one of the better rebounders in the league, so it's not a huge area of need for him.
Honestly, I see of all the teams going down in the lottery, especially in the top 5, I see Orlando as the one making that next big jump. They had a couple of big wins. I'm not sure if you guys remember. They got a buzzer beater winner over OKC.
Yeah.
I feel like they really have
the Tobias Harris dunk.
Yeah, it was so sweet. I think out of all the teams in the top 5, they have the best potential to make the playoffs next year, especially in the weak Eastern Conference.
I just think that Exum is someone who could develop and really be like a bigger force than Randall will be. I think that with no disrespect for your pick, Dan, I think that you're taking Randall because of your concerns about Exum rather than your confidence that Randall will blossom and become like as much a game changer.
I'll agree that I think Exum has more upside than Randall. I just think, the Magic have been terrible for the last 2 years. I think with this number 4 pick, at this point they've got to just cut their losses and take a guy they can definitely get some production out of. I see what you guys are saying about Exum.
I think they have a margin for error because this year they already have a great young core, and then this year they're actually this is the last year of like the worst contract of all time. They're still paying Gilbert Arenas. And this is after this season, the Gilbert Arenas contract clears, and they'll be dealing with some serious cap space. So I actually feel like they have a little margin to take a risk if they don't get a good player out of this draft. They still have the opportunity to go get a point guard in 2016.
Right.
So
Same with the power forward if they take Exum
Same
over
with
Randall.
power
I mean, I think those are two of the most skill saturated positions in the league, power forward and point guard.
yeah, for sure.
All right, guys. So number 5 pick, the Jazz.
I'm gonna go with Marcus Smart on this one. I know they already drafted Trey Burke and he's been like 13-6, really not that great. But I'm actually gonna say they draft Marcus Smart and then they slot him in at the 2, and they actually move not Trey Burke, Alec Burks back to the bench as a 6th man. I really see Marcus Smart coming on to the next level as a really good combo guard. He's not super athletic in terms of vertical, but just like Julius Randle, he's got that strength to him.
Yeah.
He's a great leader, and he really just has a passion for the game. He works insanely hard, high motor, and I think no matter where you slot him in 1 or 2, he's gonna make an impact on an NBA team. And I feel like Utah's the type of team that actually really needs that leader and that type of guy who can really just kind of take the team on his back for once every while.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Randall here. I know that I just told Dan that he should take Exum over Randall, but I think Randall is the next best player in the draft. And he's kind of I think that he's more of a sure thing in the NBA. Just
Then Smart.
Well, I'm not sure about compared to Smart, but I think that there's maybe not as a very high ceiling on Randall, but I think that he's gonna end up being a very decent player in the NBA.
Yeah, I agree with Mo. Not all of his reasoning, but I definitely agree with picking Marcus Smart. I actually think Trey Burke is quite a good player. He's getting a lot better as the year went on, so I don't think those 13-6 averages, while they are decent for a rookie, I don't think they're entirely telling. So I think pairing already a pretty good young point guard up with a very strong combo guard and Smart would be a great move for the Jazz.
I'm gonna go with Aaron Gordon here. Another guy with huge athletic upside, a guy who I'm hoping falls to the Celtics actually.
Yeah.
But just watching the NCAA tournament, he struck me as a guy who could really create points for himself, cleaning the offensive glass, put back dunks, and has the potential to be a very strong perimeter defender. So I think he'd be a really nice fit in Utah.
One question
Fun
about
fact: his sister played college basketball at Harvard. She was actually my sister.
Lucky, that's cool.
That's pretty cool.
one thing about Gordon, the one question about him obviously jumps out of the gym.
Obviously.
Great defense player.
What's the one question about him?
The one question about him, though, I think is the shooting. He's very consistent from three-point land. From the strike, he shot 42%. So I think just that's one thing you have to think about.
Right. Yeah. I just think.
I mean, especially as an attacker, a slasher. Who can
Yeah,
shoot
I
free
mean,
throws.
over the long term, you can kind of see especially with a few players, that free throw shooting makes a difference.
Yeah.
Like with DeAndre Jordan,
Definitely.
I think he could, if the numbers that he would put, if he just shot like maybe even 75 from free throw numbers, would make him like the best center in the NBA.
Right. I mean, I think I'm
So
concerned about the free throws because that can be a mental issue that players have a lot of
Yeah,
trouble
like
erasing.
Dwight Howard, like he has a quote where it's like he's 90% in high school and in
Yeah.
practice. Once those NBA lights get on you, and I mean, he's just playing college ball right now. On the next level, the pressure will be even greater.
But I think the perimeter game is something that you would hope Gordon would be able to develop over the years. I mean, we've seen players like Blake
Griffin
Griffin is exactly who I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Who's developed a really solid mid-range game and
Shot at
came in as I
75.
think a rich man's Gordon. He's more upside than Gordon.
They're very
Kind of
similar players,
Similar skill
I would
set,
say Gordon actually you could slot Gordon in at the 3 where you couldn't do that to Blake Griffin. Also, Aaron Gordon is a great defender, just great. He can go and get you. He can defend on the perimeter. He can defend in the post, and I think that's the reason why you can really put him in.
Yeah, Arizona is one of the absolute top defensive teams in the nation this year, and Gordon is a huge
one
part
of Griffin's actually biggest weak points in something he isn't even able to change the wingspan, and that kind of prevents him from being a defensive force that his athleticism kind of grants him.
Sorry, which player?
Blake Griffin.
Oh, yeah.
Very
Because
good.
Gordon's got a 7
Yeah, he
foot
kind of has those tiny dinosaur T-Rex arms going.
and Gordon is
really
7
doesn't help
foot.
him out.